call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please observe a moment of silence.
I would like to ask everyone to remember a railroad engineer friend of mine that hit 18.
That was awful.
In Hardin, Missouri. And there's just a lot of families that are affected. Not just, the ripple is just.
It's awful. It's so sad.
And I would name him, but I won't. But I just ask that you remember that person.
Thank you. Thank you. Start with the roll call, beginning with Commissioner Doug Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Stephen.
Here.
Commissioner Culberson.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Smith.
Here.
And I'm here. Public comment. I don't believe there's any agenda item public comment today, so we'll move on to administrative business. And we have a proclamation. This time I have to put on glasses because it's tiny.
Commissioner, did you have a public comment? Becky had told me that there was somebody that signed up, but it wasn't for after.
For after.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Proclamation for the EMS Week proclamation.
And on this, Jamie Miller is out of town. He was unable to be here. He asked if we could wait for this till next week. So it's the middle of the. Yeah, he just called me on Monday and said his schedule wasn't going to allow him to be here, and he really wanted to be here when he read it.
Well, then we will wait
until next week.
We will wait until next week for this.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Any other administrative business? Mark, do you have anything for us?
I do have a couple of things today. First, as I think Commissioner Causey, you're aware, we were invited to some kind of an announcement over at Arrowhead Stadium tomorrow. Not sure what it's about because they're being very secretive. But I didn't know if any of the other commissioners had received that or were going to attend, but it is an invite-only event, apparently.
We will be attending.
Yeah, I think that I plan to go.
Okay.
Yesterday, I attended the Leavenworth County Human Services Council luncheon, where they awarded the Spirit of Humanitarianism Awards. And the organizational award this year was given to the Council on Aging for all they do for the community. So I just wanted to point that out, that the folks at the Council on Aging received that recognition and for all they do for the seniors in our in Leavenworth County.
Yes. That's great. I'm glad they got recognized.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's all I have.
I do. I have one thing.
Sorry, me?
I
I just had a question for the county administrator. I seen in the paper it said that there was a representative that alleges that Mr. Lawford had later changed his assumptions that he had made in order to say he was correct. Did that happen? Did you happen to change some things?
Commissioners, as you're aware, all along I've said I thought that it was going to be around a $2 million impact to the county for the veterans exemption that one of the representatives had proposed, one of our local representatives actually. I did receive updated numbers, which I shared with you, but I did not change any of those numbers. Those numbers are what they are. I refined the data as I got more detail, and it actually shows that the cost is likely more, not less. But there are 9,700 veterans in Leavenworth County. Now, with the updated information, about 4,000 of them have a disability rating, and I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but around 3,000 of those have a rating that would give them some kind of property tax exemption. Again, all that data is available on the internet. Anybody who has an internet browser can research it, and no, I did not manipulate it to go to the answer I was looking for. I just used the data that's there, and it provides the information.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I thought maybe I overlooked something.
And I will reiterate, our county administrator has been completely transparent and open and has not misled or provided any incorrect information to the public.
That's why. And I also
Period.
had one more thing. I also had a different representative tell me that we received the local ad valorem tax money back in 2014, and we raised the mill levy after we. So
Nobody.
I'm telling you, I was here in 2014 working on budgets, and I can assure you we did not get that money back in 2014.
Yeah.
I can assure you as well that it was not received, and that is not true.
Yeah,
Period.
because if you think about it, that was during the Brownback era.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any extra money. So, anyways, just want to know that there's reasons why they won't give us our local ad valorem tax back, I guess.
It's because they spent it
Yeah, okay.
to balance their own budget. Okay.
That's about 3 to 4 mills this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we
it's
could
sitting
do
right
this.
now in an amount of over $2 billion sitting in the state's coffers that they could very easily have, at the end of their session, had made a decision to bring it back to the local
Mm-hmm. And we could
governing
lower
bodies so that they could
about
lower
4
their
mills
tax.
we could
Yes.
have lowered.
That's just us.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Stephen.
One thing, follow up on that. Mark, you stand behind it, all your statistics that you've released up to this point on that issue, correct?
Yes, and like I said, as I've gotten better detail, I've updated it, but it hasn't changed the initial assumption. Actually, the numbers have went up, not down. I stand behind what I put out. And I've offered more than once to meet with the representative to go over the data so he can point out to me somehow if I am wrong. I think he doesn't want to meet because he knows that I'm right, and he doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to actually admit that he's wrong. And that's my opinion.
Agreed.
My opinion only.
Okay.
Well, and we did invite that representative and some other representatives to come up and, chat about this, but they so far declined.
And we offered any day, any time, we would adjust our schedules to meet theirs. And there was still, we had only one representative, and that was Senator Pittman, who accepted the invitation and came and met with us.
On another issue that's totally different is I had some constituents call me from that live along Kansas Avenue near the Hills Pet Nutrition, and they were complaining about speed. And there's a lot of contractors there. As new businesses are moving in, there's a lot more traffic and excessive speed on the road. So I told them that they need to contact the sheriff. And then I got an email from Lieutenant Podswell from the Sheriff's Department, and he told me that they will enforce the rules if we have posted speed limits on those roads. But at this time, we do not have posted speed limits. So then I addressed with staff what that entails, and I'll let Mark kind of go from there what we need to do. But I did have one question before we start on that. In the speed limit rules under 8.15.60 under H, it says local authorities who have jurisdiction over county or township highways may determine based on an engineering and traffic investigation or without an engineering and traffic investigation the proper speed for such county or township highways and should declare a reasonable and safe maximum speed limit thereon, which may be greater or less than the maximum speed permitted under the Act. So it would appear that it says with or without a traffic study. So I'm just wanting if we can possibly, if we have to do a traffic study and expend those resources, but if there's a way around it. But I think when I visited with the county administrator, he said our best path forward here is to make a motion to allow them to formulate a plan.
You definitely want a traffic study, because if you just go do it on your own without any expertise on it, first accident, you're in court.
Well, I'd spent about an hour on the phone with this Lieutenant Paulswell, and he gave me all these statutes, and this one happens to say that you either with or without a traffic study. But
Or you can do the 85th percentile and make an average of what the speed limit is everybody's driving.
so what do we need to do to proceed?
So, Commissioner, as I stated, the appropriate motion would be to give direction to staff to adjust the speed limit on that roadway. And we'll follow through and make sure we do it the right way. And whatever the statutes and our local resolutions state, that's what we'll follow. But you can't parse those, and it's hard to know if that particular statute would be applicable to that stretch of roadway without doing an analysis. The cost of a traffic study, we do have that, would be around $8,900 for the stretch of road that you're discussing. And our local resolution actually mandates that we do a traffic study anytime we put signage up. And just anecdotally, there is a speed limit sign on that road as you leave County Route 1 and go on to 222nd. There is a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit sign there.
So there's one sign on there.
There's one there, but
So
that would
can
be
we
the
just, if there is one there, then can't we just place additional?
Again, because we weren't there when that sign was placed, we don't know if they did a traffic study for that segment of the roadway.
Is part of Kansas Avenue in the city?
And a portion of the roadway, both Kansas and 222nd, are within the city limits. So this would be something that would have to work through them as
Jointly
well
with the
if
city.
it's going to be signed. Otherwise, it would only be signed on our side of the road in that area.
So would the motion say that we working jointly with the?
The motion would just be to give staff direction to adjust the speed limit on that segment of roadway, and then we'll do it the correct way. However that may be.
I'd like to make that my motion.
Let me ask one question, please. If you mind,
We could go ahead, we have a motion, we get a second and then discuss.
I'll second. Okay. Mark, that 85 or 8,900, is that a stretch that is, can you do more than a mile, or does that, if you get somebody to come out and do that, can you do a longer distance and get more out of that money for that, or is that just for a certain section they go by, they break it off?
Yeah. So for that quote, it's the area that has been discussed along the industrial park from County Route 1, and it goes
That's
down
the length
Kansas
of it.
Avenue as well, I believe.
Yeah,
So
but I just don't think
Bill has more information on that. But as far as can they do more, if we expand it, obviously the cost goes up. It wouldn't be, because they have to analyze every entry point on the section of road. So, but this is longer than a mile. What we're talking about now is longer than a mile.
Yeah, Doug, Commissioner Smith brings up a good point, though. When I was a police chief, city manager, we were involved in a couple of those that weren't studied, engineer studied, and one of the first things you do when you get in court is the people that are coming after you ask for that. So I think that's the correct way to go is what we're doing here.
It's before you get in court. It's when they're giving the depositions when you got to explain your qualifications.
Yeah.
Well, this area is the traffic's going to just intensify and intensify. You know, it's.
Okay.
So we are.
Just so long as the board understands that the cost is probably around $9,000 to move forward.
And you'll also work with the lieutenant as well. You'll be doing, because he said he needed it signed a certain way.
Well, the lieutenant, is, to my knowledge, is not a
sheriff's
traffic
office.
the lieutenant is not a traffic engineer nor an attorney. So we'll make sure we work with the appropriate folks who can sign that adequately.
Madam Chair, I got one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mark, one other question for you, too. Since this is not signage, when somebody stops and they receive a speeding citation, they fall back on...
Kansas statutes, which are 55 miles an hour.
55 mile an hour.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say it. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Colson, you have any?
Yes, ma'am. So, speaking of LAVTR, local ad valorem tax relief.
Wait a second. No, before we do that, we have to vote on
our...
this.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Did you,
That's what happens when you go on vacation, Jeff.
Yeah. He's not that go.
No, I just, did you have any questions
No.
about this?
No.
Okay, then.
He's ready to roll.
Have a motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Stevens?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, motion carries. Now, Commissioner Culberson.
Now go. Okay.
Did you have anything you'd like to
He was ready.
Madam Chair, since there were several bills introduced this last session that would have returned the local ad valorem tax relief funds to the cities and the counties, I've been waiting to see if that panned out. It did not. Now that this session's pretty much over and none of those LAVTR bills to return the funds did not get passed, I'm seeking a consensus from this board to direct staff to research which law firm we should retain to sue the state of Kansas for not following the law by not returning the LAVTR funds to local governments. This would be a class action lawsuit that would include and benefit every single county and every city in the state of Kansas. I have a list of other counties and cities that have expressed an interest in joining us on this lawsuit.
So is this to investigate that?
Figure out which law firm we should use to initiate.
Or if there's a case.
I mean, but are we making a decision that we're going to do this, or are we making a decision we're going to investigate this?
Well, we have to investigate before we make a decision.
Right.
As to, and you have something to say?
Well, like most of these items, I usually request that we put, make it an agenda item if you're going to vote, especially on something like this.
Yeah, I'm just asking for right now to do research to figure out.
Commissioner Culbertson is that we look into the process, and then
Right.
And we can definitely do that if that's the consensus of the board, and put it on an agenda, and we'll get more data on what law firms that are available, and
So that we can have more
definitely do that
additional
if that's
information. Right, detailed information to come.
And I just wanted to add, if we would have received our LAVTR funds for this year, we could have lowered everyone's taxes by 3 or 4 full mills. And we already passed a resolution that we would use the LAVTR funds 100% to relieve property tax.
Which is what it's for.
Yep.
And the statute that implements the LAVTR states that it must be used for
Right.
Yeah,
local
but I
ad
had
valorem tax
several.
reduction.
Yep. But I had several state representatives tell me that, well, one of the reasons we're not returning it is because we can't guarantee you would use it for property tax relief.
But we have to.
Therefore, we passed the county resolution
Mm-hmm.
to guarantee that we had to use it 100% for property tax. So we took that off the table.
That was redundant, but yes, that's what it's for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think the consensus
Yeah,
is that we.
just one thing, comment, like, this is not something that we should take lightly, but I'm afraid that over the years, we've been pushed into the corner that we're just not getting any kind of relief whatsoever, and I agree with Commissioner Culbertson, we should at least entertain the consensus or motion to check into this.
Commissioner Culbertson, myself, and Commissioner Smith, I mean, we have been on this since.
4 years.
We
For 4
lived it.
years.
We lived
But
it.
for 4 years,
No, I'm
we
talking
have.
about
Yeah, you
20
lived
years.
it, right, but for 4 years. I
We've
think
been
that
pushing.
even Commissioner Culbertson and I, before we were even elected, were discussing that
Well,
something needed to be done.
I can go any further than that. City administrator for 16 years, mayor for 20 years. I've been asking for this to be returned, and I can tell you, I don't know where that 2014 or whatever that number you were
That's
given
ridiculous.
thing.
Did not happen.
I don't remember seeing that when I was doing the budget whatsoever. If I'm wrong, show me, but I don't think that was a correct statement.
If you do remember it, you're way off.
Then
It
you're
didn't
sharing the
happen.
same memory as the legislature that
But no,
Which
it's
is-
been over 20 years.
one of those, and then they woke up because it did not happen.
And I fully realize that, all they have to do is change the law to say they don't have to do it anymore. And what they've been doing for the past umpteen years is passing a moratorium every other year saying we don't have to follow the law right now. We'll put it on the shelf and readdress this in a couple of years. So it's still a law. It's still a statute. So whether they change the law and say they don't have to do it anymore, at least it'll force their hand to do one or the other. Either take it off the books or pay it.
Why would you vote to take off property tax relief for the people you represent?
Especially in the times that we're having right now where the market increases are crazy to keep up with. So we need it now more than we ever have in the 20 years that they haven't been paying it.
Bottom
They're
line, it's
continuing
collected from here.
Yeah, and they're continuing to
And that's
allow
Spent somewhere else.
And that's
our
the part they don't really
taxpayers to
understand.
suffer.
That's the part they
And
really
it's
don't
intentional.
understand. They think it's their money. It's our
It
money
came from
that they're keeping.
residents of Leavenworth County.
Yeah, and most people don't understand that it's our money that the state is just keeping.
Yep, they've withheld it and spent it. To boot.
When we were at the Kansas County Commissioners Association meeting, the House had voted, and it was either 70 or 80 votes that were for. I can't remember the exact number of votes.
It was a large number.
It was almost a supermajority in the House when they voted to give the LAVTR back to the counties. It got hung up in the Senate, I think, but so what they were saying was we do have some level of support. We just need to keep pushing, and I'll give a compliment to this board because we've been pushing.
Absolutely.
And so it's on the radar of the Kansas Association of County Commissioners. They are talking about it.
Commissioners, they have the funding, they have the legislation, and they have the ability to reinstate that transfer. That would be a direct tax reduction to all property owners in Leavenworth County.
And across
they won't
the
do
state.
it. And instead, they adopt legislation that some special interest groups, or try to adopt legislation that some special interest groups might see a small reduction in their taxes or a large reduction in the case of the other legislation we just discussed. But that puts it back on the rest of the taxpayers. So the other folks who are still on the tax bills would see an increase in their taxes. So I don't understand why, if their whole goal is to reduce taxes, they don't use the legislation already in place and just fund the LAVTR instead of coming up with new legislation that impacts the rest of us.
Exactly my point.
Yep.
Yep. Which is what we've been saying for years now.
Okay. So
One more
we
question.
have a consensus then.
Yes,
correct?
we do.
On Mr.
We have a
Culberson's
consensus.
request?
Move forward, please, and investigate that. Commissioner Stevens?
Question for staff: where are we at on the Flatlands? Finding out about the results, or have they actually performed the tests?
Commissioners, the latest report is that we anticipate the engineering analysis and the inspection report within the next 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Yes.
That's a long time for folks out there that are having to deal with this.
That's the report we have from the engineers.
Okay.
Why it's so long? Just curious.
That's a good question, Commissioner. We have been trying to encourage a more swift inspection schedule, but between two engineering firms, that apparently is rather difficult to accomplish.
Are there any preliminary results we can get a hold of as they
No,
go through
not that I'm aware of, Commissioner.
Thank you. All right, anything else, Commissioner Smith?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, then we will move on to the consent agenda.
Can I speak on that one
Is there anything
second?
that needs to be?
On the consent agenda? Madam Chair, can I consent?
Yes.
The item number E is to approve the appointment of Dave Clevenger to the Board of Codes Appeals Board. He was my choice of all in my area because he replaced John Jacobson, who we hired on full time. And I just wanted to let y'all know that I did interview him and have a chance with him, and I think he'd be an asset to it.
I didn't have to interview. He's a good man.
Yep.
You're lucky to have somebody with his experience willing to set on this.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Smith, for your input.
No, Dave's been around a long time, runs a very successful business. He's just a good guy, and just so glad that people like that will volunteer.
That's all I had.
And then I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Stevens.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Move down to formal board action. We need to consider a motion to approve continued agreement with Clearwater Enterprises for natural gas services. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
The action item that you have before you is a continued agreement with Clearwater. They plan to hold their current costs for our gas for the next full 12-month period. If you look at a spreadsheet of savings, we are sitting in an excess of $65,000. It's about $65,595.18 in savings instead of buying it direct from the providers. But through purchasing it through Clearwater. When priced against a competitor, they were lower. So I was bringing it to you to extend our contract to 1 12-month period.
It's kind of amazing that we got some prices locked in, or kind of locked in and they're not going up considerable like everybody else is.
What's the catch, huh?
I was talking to him earlier. I think good negotiating skills by Aaron, so thanks for the catch.
Oh, I agree.
Anybody have any questions?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve continued agreement with Clearwater Enterprises for natural gas services.
Second.
Motion is second. Begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Stevens.
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Okay, motion carries. Presentations. Oh, what? Let's go ahead and do it. I know that we need to kind of switch that order. Additional public comment.
Oh, we said that.
Mr. Wagner, come on up, please.
Morning.
John. John Wagner, of course, 22578 Easton Road, Easton, Kansas. You guys are probably tired of seeing me hearing from me, but I'm here just in concerns with what's going on with the landfill. Progress with it, still have the smell, it's not as consistent, but when it does smell, it's for several days. I'm a little concerned with what's being put in the landfill also. I think it was April 19th, one of the trucks, after it dumped, had some issues and ran off the side of the road and hit a power pole, and I was down there. He said he'd come from over 2 hours away because his local landfill was going to charge him $3,000 to dump at his place, and he could dump there for $300. So I'm just, I don't know, and I know you all are frustrated too with our state, but I know our state is not doing what I feel its job at looking in on what's being actually put in and how it's being covered up and how it's, being dumped and inspecting it. I know, you say something to the state and you send in emails, they come out and they do their things, and of course the results come back, couldn't find anything. But and I hear, it's another 8 weeks. It's not a big deal for as long as we've been waiting. I guess patience is a virtue. So hopefully we get good results. But I'm here. It's still an ongoing issue. The trash. I see Kansas City. They're raising a big stink with landfills, some trucks, trash blowing out, and I'm like, maybe I ought to holler at them and say, hey, you have trucks coming from, over that area, over into Kansas. You ought to look into them because they're not being covered very well with the trash blowing up, and now we're picking up your trash from Missouri. So, just FYI. But just concerned still, if there's any progress or anything, and just frustrated. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny.
Dave, when did we get that? 8 weeks. It was going to be 8 weeks. When did you receive that?
Late last week, Commissioners.
Okay.
So, Commissioner, I'd like to share this. Mr. Wagner's concerns, I think, are the concerns of this entire community. He speaks them very eloquently, but I think he is more than justified in being up here to remind us all that this problem has not gone away. I will endeavor, your staff is going to endeavor to try to get this inspection result done professionally, but as quickly as possible so that the results can be analyzed and shared with Kansas Department of Health and Environment.
Yeah, I was majorly disappointed to find out that we couldn't do anything about trucks entering from Missouri because it would interfere with interstate commerce. I was like, well, man, just to even try to eliminate some of the problem with crossing the state line, and it's like, no, we can't do anything about that because of commerce. I'm like, well, that just is dumb. So
Yeah. More ways than one.
All right. Now we will move to presentations and discussion items.
I don't really have anything.
Commissioner Stephen, anything?
Well, there's one thing, actually 2 or 3 things, but we have a June 5th, there's a Republican town hall meeting, and Karen Tyson's going to be there, and the discussion is going to center around this veterans bill, and I know Janet Klasinski's going to be there, so I don't know if we need to post it, if all 5 commissioners can attend that meeting.
I plan on going.
Yeah, I think we should all be there if possible, because I think the facts are the facts, and we need to make sure that that's confronted, that it is the facts.
I think it's our job to be there.
So, I don't know, if Janet can provide us do we need a scribe, is that what we need? And then if we are going to post this for an open meeting.
Commissioners, if you're going to conduct an open meeting at a partisan forum, I think we need to make it very, very clear that you are there on a nonpartisan basis.
And that is true, and that is an open public meeting.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. And I would invite any Democrat or unaffiliated to come and listen to those issues.
Commissioners, Commissioner Cos brings up a good point. If this board plans to attend that as a body of the Board of County Commissioners, it would need to be put on your agenda, and we would need to ensure that the meeting was truly open to the public. And as far as the logistics of keeping any type of minutes or record, I'll defer to the clerk and your staff on that, but there will be some logistical considerations you need to take into account.
I think
We
it
can
kind of
attend
puts us,
as a public, I guess.
yeah.
Well, I just think if we
As long as
post
we don't
it,
engage.
so everybody knows we'll be there. We're not really going to.
I think it needs to be posted because I don't want to see, because if we speak,
But it
ask
puts us-
questions or answer questions, I think it's kind of a meeting.
Yeah, and it puts us in a position of having to answer questions, which that's why I'm not sure that it's a great idea, but
What?
if we're posting it as a meeting of the commission,
Well, I think we're just trying to get it so we can attend the meeting legally, as an open meeting.
If you intend or anticipate interaction between members of this board and other bodies or persons, and it's regarding county business, which it appears it would be, you need to organize it and set it up and notice it up as a formal meeting of the Board of County Commissioners or attendance by the Board of County Commissioners as a body, and you would need to comply with all aspects of the Kansas Open Meetings Act.
So that means minutes.
yes,
If
of what was happened through the entire thing.
And
not just what we
consequently,
said.
again, my statement, I would defer to your clerk and staff as far as the logistical requirements, and you would need to just certainly coordinate that with the venue.
Is that something we need to make a motion on, or is it just something we just do consensus?
Well, when you set your agenda for that week.
That's pretty close. It's coming up next week, probably. Or the week after.
Yeah, week after next.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The Monday after next week. Yep.
Since it appears that there is a high likelihood there will be 3 or more of you at that meeting, we'll put it on our notice that it's a meeting that you'll be attending, and I'll work with the clerk's office for make arrangements for minutes.
The other thing I had was that had a town hall meeting last Thursday. Invited anyone that wanted to come and talk about the fire district down in Lindenwood. We didn't have the crowd we had in Tonganoxie. We had 13 folks come out, but I thought it was good. We answered a lot of questions. The fire chief was there, answered questions about it, and people had an opportunity if they wanted to come and interact before we vote. We did give them an opportunity. So
People supportive of the district.
I didn't have anybody that was in opposition.
That's good. I think it's a good thing. Our district down here.
That area is going to grow.
Okay, Commissioner Culberson, do you have anything?
Just that tomorrow night, let's see, this is Wednesday. Yeah, tomorrow night, the Chamber is sponsoring a presentation at the Heritage Center on transportation that I'm going to be speaking at, along with Jeff McCarrow from Kimley Horn. So if anybody wants to go down and hear about transportation plans, past and future, Heritage Center, I think 5:30 tomorrow night. That's all I got.
I have just a few, Madam Chair. Next Monday, Lansing's going to have their ribbon cutting for their new improvements to their ballpark out at Bernard Park. That's from 6 to 8 Monday. There's going to be refreshments, stuff like that for anybody who wanted to attend. Also on the June 3rd, the BFW is going to have their rededication of their pavers at the memorial on June 3rd at 10 a.m. They've added another 50. That's really becoming a great site on that. And then I think we got Baser. Is that next Wednesday at 5:30?
Yep.
Okay. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Well, that came right up.
Okay, well,
Time's going.
Yep.
last week I attended the Junior ROTC Awards Banquet, and it was well attended and a very nice ceremony with a lot of awards given out that night. It took about almost 3 hours to get through it, but it was really a nice event. Participated and chaired the Transit Authority Finance Committee meeting yesterday afternoon, and then the City Commission meeting last evening for the City of Leavenworth. This afternoon I will be participating in a special meeting for the Transit Authority, and I think that's what I have for this week, but I wanted to congratulate the graduating seniors and wish them well as this weekend begins all of the ceremonies for graduation for our seniors, and congratulations to all of them and their parents or grandparents, whatever the case may be, or caregivers in general, because it's a really monumental occasion when your young people graduate and move on, whatever their goals are in the future. So I wish them all well.
Carpe diem.
Yes.
If I could kind of follow up on that, as the commission is aware, I was out last week, Friday, attended my nephew, Tony Malik's commissioning into the Air Force as a second lieutenant, and he is graduating from Kansas State University, and I think he's actually has graduated now and will be, I believe, heading out to California to do nuclear studies in the Air Force. And then I had the privilege of attending the air show at the Scott Air Force Base with my son, who is also a second lieutenant in the Air Force, and over the weekend as well. So as you talk about people transitioning on, that was a pretty neat deal for my son to be able to be there when my nephew commissioned into the Air Force. So hopefully they'll run into each other throughout their careers.
Cool.
Awesome.
Pretty cool.
Okay, well, if we don't have anything else, I will entertain a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn,
Motion
and then
to
we'll
adjourn.
move into our work session. Motion, and a second?
Oh, I'll second it.
Okay, begin voting with you.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Discussion. 5 minutes.
5-minute break, and then we go
Gotta get
into
more coffee.
work session. More coffee.